in a count. The swing arm now coming back as our countdown continues.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to the Brick Something News. It's been a couple of weeks because last Sunday I kind of had to, pause on the show, the regular live stream, because I was at Legions Con. Actually, so last Sunday I would have been sort of packing up and sitting at the airport right around the time I would normally be streaming and doing the Brick Something News. So I'm glad to be back. Today will be, we will have a guest. He's sort of just jumping on right around now and kind of getting things up and going, having some tech difficulties. But since I know there's a little bit of like some stuff to handle in the beginning and sort of like context and recap from Legions Con, I figured I'd go ahead and start up and check in with everybody who's here right now, and start off the show before our co-host today, Thomas Bellet, joins us. So anyway, first off, again, let me go and start off by saying hello to everybody who is here. And man, it's been a week and all of a sudden, like, I don't know what to do. So let's see who's going out. First off, Josh Brown was here real early. And I appreciate you for that, Josh. And I miss you, man. Wish I got to hang out with you guys more. Exactly. We'll get to that, but I will just say the biggest challenge that I had was not seeing a lot of the show, just because we're busy and there's actually just way too much, and not getting to hang out more with people. Yeah, and thank you, man. Hey, we got Marco, a boy called Malice. What's going on, man? Good to see you. Got to hang out with him quite a bit, and it was great. Great to see you. Nolan, hello. We'd love to see you someday, man, in person, you and Ray. That would be amazing. Legends Collector, 1321-1321. Hello. Check. Mic 2. What's up? Awesome to see you, and awesome to see you on the show yesterday. Saturday Live. Was that right? What did I see yesterday? Yeah, I think that's where it was. Joe G. Oh my God, had a great time hanging out with Joe. Love that. What's up, Joe? Thanos Copter. What's going on, man? And thank you, as usual, for helping out. But you probably noticed that nothing was updated in the doc that I normally do. Because, yeah. So we're going to fly by the seat of our pants. Thank you, and I'll try my best to drop in the links. And if I don't, then that's what that little like QR code at the bottom left corner that'll be popping up. I don't know, like right about now. Yeah, will be for anybody who checks it out after the show on the replay crew. So, and then that URL will be down there as well. If you're new to the show, that's how we do. I'm a visual person. I love to see stuff. So I'll show you the stuff here, but if you want to follow along and check it out for yourself, please do, and go follow everybody whose IG or YouTube channel or whatever it is website that I send you to, because people work really hard and I want them to sort of benefit from getting to meet you and connect with you on social media. Let's see. Genma Sinopa. Who else is here? Rick Jones. What's up, man? Good to see you. Brian Brink, man. Yeah. Another person that I finally got to meet in person. And let's talk about StreamYard stuff, but I'm pretty sure you figured it out when I was explaining it, because you got it. Endless Fables, what's going on? Hey, since I have you here, first off, we featured Endless Fables. We sold Endless Fables awesome custom flags for the factions, the AWOC factions over at the Spiro table last week. And I know Joe G is here, and Joe G was looking for like pictures and stuff for me to help him with. But if not, I might just put you two in touch because you're both awesome people, and you can give them some tips on how to put together those awesome flags. Yes, it was Saturday Live yesterday. Let's see. Solo Center, what's going on, man? It was so good to see you as well. It's just great to meet everybody in person, and always awesome to see you. Larry's Geeky World is here. Hello, hello. And I believe that's it for the folks on the live at the moment. So let's see. I was expecting another person to join us live, and here he is. Yeah. What's up, man? With the late night LeBron shirt. Oh my God.
What's up, dude?
Cool. You got the memo about the beanie and the glasses. Cool.
Yes, sir.
I totally realized as I was putting together the sort of end tag thing that has your little thumbnail, I was like, oh well, it's an homage. Bonjour.
I love it. Bonjour, ça va bien?
Ça va okay, I guess. And I'm not saying that right. My French is non-existent. I think I used to be able to say like greet people. I used to play music. So it was like we'd be traveling through France, like bonjour, nous sommes from Monument Thomases de San Francisco, California, and then we'd start playing
And then
or
just
something
rock out.
to that effect. But it was awesome to see you and my brother. And I know you put that in the list of things of highlights, but you and my brother just like having a full-on conversation in French, and that was awesome.
Yeah, that was so rad, man. Him just realizing that I was French based off the last name, and then just going at it like no hesitation. I was like, oh, like I don't have to mince my words. This guy can speak full French. Like,
yeah,
that was awesome.
Yeah, he's obviously a cool dude. That's my brother Ted, who was hung out with me. We both went together to Intern, and that was rad. And so I got to meet you and a bunch of other cool people, including this person. What's up, Greg?
Greg.
So let me continue and sort of say hello to the folks. And I'm glad you made it. I hope dinner was good. Lunch
was great.
Lunch. Yeah, that's right. You're not too far from me. KJ Smith. Hello, sir. A couple of people jumped in I think it was KJ, Greg, and oh, that's hilarious. So how offended are you when Wade insists on using the hard tbellet?
Oh, I love it, man. It's become a thing, at this point. It's funny because nobody ever asked, and then Bill from Dorklair, just being such a nice guy, actually like asked, how do you pronounce it? And ever since then, it's like, all right, we've got the two, the good angel and then the demon. We got Bill and then Wade. It's opposite pronunciations, but I knew it was going to give me a hard time afterwards. He started pronouncing it correctly in person. I was like, I'm never going to hear that on the live streams,
Thomas or Tomas? Or
Thomas.
Okay, Thomas.
Or
Thomas
Thomas in French.
Thomas. Sorry, Thomas. I was doing the Espanol. Thomas. All right. And JMax77, great to see you as well. Man, I got to meet a bunch of cool folks, and I know that was something that we wanted to talk about a little bit. Let's go ahead and let's start there, because like I got to meet you right off the bat at Intern, and I really appreciated that because you were like fresh off of having done it the year before. So you were telling me a little bit about what that was like. I was like, okay, that's cool. So can you give folks context for like your sort of like Legion's Con experience? This was year 2, right?
My third time coming out for Legion's Con. Second time doing Intern. First year, knew really nobody, was welcomed by the whole community. I liked these toys, and I had started joining the online communities. I was like, you know what? Let's fly across the country for this convention. It looks kind of fun. It was at La Quinta, so it was a very different setting than the Marriott you got to experience.
That's what I heard is smaller, right? And warmer.
Yeah, man. Warmer, smaller, one elevator. It was. But I mean, this new venue that now 2 years, will be 3 years next year, right? It's incredible. I mean, the amount of space. I want to say where we had G-Con was about the size of the whole area for the convention.
No way.
Might be exaggerating a little bit. It might have been slightly larger, but nowhere near as large as this venue. And then the ceilings were super, super low, so it made everything even more claustrophobic, you know?
I heard that, yes.
So, yeah, J-Mac, get the beanie on. We got to make Brick some stickers next. Get some Brick something stickers with the beanie.
Yeah, well, so tell me about your intern experience last year, maybe compared to this year. Like, what did you notice? What was anything different? Kind of the same presentations, or
fairly similar? I think obviously the Armory experience being the first time they were doing that was incredible to be able to do that, you know, before Legion's Con, getting kind of a sneak peek, and then being the guinea pigs for the studio to kind of see the layout and what to expect. Everything else, all the different sessions that we did were, you know, very similar. And one of the highlights is always being able to see Trevor and having him give us some tips and tricks, right? Behind the camera. This year's session was really special, just seeing him having a full dio laid out and shooting some shots, and then adding some bounce lights, showing how light works and plays with the photography. So
was that different than from last year?
Yeah, last year was a little bit more of on the computer and editing and taking questions from the audience, not as interactive with the whole layout. So it was really cool to see different presentations from everyone. Nate Barch had he was working on different packaging last year, so it was completely different. We didn't have the figure obscura out yet for Frankenstein, so we got to see how he designed that box this year. Last year it was
that was cool.
The latest line of cosmics that he was working on, and he was taking prompts from the audience, like, what do you guys think we should do? And we said, put a little spaceship right here in the corner. And then next thing we know, we get the boxes this year, and there's a little spaceship in the corner from like Intern.
Oh, really?
So
that's dope,
dude.
So you guys, as interns, you got to contribute to the packaging. That's cool.
Yep. Super fun. And then Eric, being able to see Eric sculpt, I mean, he is an absolute wizard when it comes to that. I don't think I saw the sculpt that you guys designed in your session, but I love how it's unique with each session, you know, that comes through, because we're split up into groups. For everybody that doesn't know, everyone shows up at the beginning of the morning. We get introduced to the studio. They welcome us in. There's a entire hallway of legions with every mythic legion that's been created to date, just kind of lining the walls.
Go ahead and do that. And I sort of got some of the stuff that I have from that day as sort of visuals, and so sort of keep going. This is just sort of like us walking to where our what do you call it, lift drops us off. This is sort of the outside. This building, by the way, like, I'm kind of both my brother and I are dorky architecture nerds. That building was fantastic. All that sort of like detail on the outside must be like, I don't know if that was like,
so there's a quick check.
Oops.
Yeah, and we didn't get to go into that building last year where the Armory experience was. So it was really cool being able to enter that that other side of the facility, and it's kind of off the road, right? You're not sure where you're going. That was one thing that helped us this year, is we knew where to tell our Uber driver to go, because last year we had no idea where to go, and he's like dropping us off at a loading dock somewhere, and we're like, I think this is kind of like, it's an orange building. So then you just got to look for the 4-H symbol on the green awning over there. That you
right around here. That's where you guys kind of got dropped off. So I kind of just knew from other people's footage. Nolan collects last year, sort of watching his stuff and had a sense of it. We just kind of got dropped off out there and kind of walked around. So I had a sense. And there's the entrance. And you were saying you walk in, and what do you see? There's my brother Ted.
Right at the entrance right there. You've got 2-ups of a bunch of the earlier Mythic Legions figures in the case. There tends to be a little bit of a a bottleneck right there, right at the entrance, because everyone pauses and wants to see. We've got, I mean, these are the prototypes, if you will, the 2-ups of all the figures. So everyone takes their time taking video.
I was gonna say, I'm sure there was a bottleneck, but full disclosure, my brother and I showed up like about 10 minutes late. So
That's perfect.
I think you all, I was gonna say you all had kind of done your thing, and then they're like, okay, we're just gonna throw you. Well, we walked in, checked in with Jeremy, and he's like, okay, we're gonna throw you into a group. So we kind of missed whatever orientation y'all had, and so.
It's super brief. I mean, the studio is awesome. They provide a welcome breakfast. So there's muffins, strudels, coffee, all sorts of little snacks for everyone to fuel up for the day. And then they break us out into different groups. So this year compared to last year, this year with the anniversary, they invited a lot of influencers or people from the community that have podcasts and things. So it was definitely busier than last year, but in a good way. I think everything still flowed really smoothly. The groups were still good sizes, right? There wasn't too many people in any group where you were crammed into a room, but it was cool to see so many new faces and familiar faces at the same time. Feeling pretty lucky to have one intern twice in a row. Maybe a little guilty that I entered again after having one, but man, it's like I'm gonna enter again next year, dude. It's such an experience, and it's super special being able to go to the studio. Everyone's so welcoming there, and they're genuinely nice people. They're not putting on a face. It's their busiest weekend of the year. Like they're getting ready for this whole convention, right? And 2 days before, they're like, hey, let's bring in 60, 70 people from the streets into the studio and entertain them, even though we're trying to get this whole convention up.
100%. That's what I was, that's what I was trying to wrap my head around and sort of talking with my brother Ted as well. So like I have worked in kind of a creative environment prior to teaching, and I can't imagine, because like our workspace could be a mess, especially like mid-work, right? You've got like stuff everywhere, and this whole idea of like, oh, all these people are going to come by, like clean up, make it look good, and make room, make space for like 60 people. But you're right. It's like it's the busiest, or it's a busy week. I don't know what their busiest week would be, but a really busy week for the studio. Planning both, doing this, Jeremy himself being like one half of the folks like running Legion's Con proper, and then the studio, of course, having a huge presence and doing a bunch of stuff for the con and G-Con. So to be like, okay, and by the way, you have to prepare a presentation. I was talking with you mentioned Trevor's presentation compared to last year. He was on the week before. He was on this show the week before I headed out for New Jersey, and I asked him, like, hey, you ready? What's it going to be like? And he's like, I honestly have no idea. I'm still kind of wrap my head around it. And he was on Oz's channel last night. We were all on there, and I asked him about that and mentioned that. And he's like, hey, full disclosure, I didn't fully know what the presentation was going to be until that morning that I did it. So it was like, to hear you talk about it is exactly what I was trying to communicate to him yesterday. I was like, man, it was excellent. And like, it really kind of took us through the whole process to be able to see him do a setup, take photos, show how to use the fog, and then sort of like, or, of the lighting, the fog, and many other things, positioning the figure, the remote, so that you're not touching things and messing things up, and then show how it shows up on the monitor and making adjustments. And it was really cool. It was really, really cool. So shout out, Trevor. Like, you heard me say that yesterday, I'll say it again. Your presentation was solid, and well done for it being, at least according to you, relatively last minute. So let me go ahead and sort of show a little bit of what this. I'm not going to go through like the whole thing. I'm hoping to edit some of this stuff and turn it into kind of presentable content at some point for the channel. Big asterisk, because editing is my enemy, and time. But so this is us walking in, and because my brother and I came a little later, Jeremy was like, hey, you know what? It probably makes sense for you to do the Armory experience first, since they kind of already started. There's not a whole like a huge intro or anything, right? It's just like they're already in line doing their thing. So we headed across the parking lot essentially to to the space, and effectively this was their first, I guess, trial run with actual people running through this thing. And so this is effectively the same setup that would later be over at the Marriott, the Hanover Marriott, where the venue was. I love that little lamp hanging there. My wife and I have a couple of those from World Market like years ago. But it was cool. It was cool to kind of see how this thing was going to go. It was also, you mentioned like there are a lot of sort of influencers and other folks. Like in my group, it was kind of maybe got a quick glimpse of him in there. It was Robo was in there. Oops, did I play this one already? Bill was in there. Dorklair, Big Dub. Who else? The Amazing Darius. It was kind of wild. Jorge and Carlos weren't in my group, but I saw them later. Anyway, it was kind of cool to sort of see this. And the other surprise was I was totally planning for them. They said there was a 2-figure limit, right? Before. And then all of a sudden I walk in, they're like, no, for the interns, it's 4 figures. And so I had like this plan of like, well, for me, it was a little bit different because I was like, okay, there's only 2. You know what? I have a couple of wonderful completist friends in my life, like Joji. And I was like, hey, man, I know you want to get as complete as possible. Why don't you take my 2 figures? So I was like, cool. That's 2 figures less for me to spend on. And then they surprised me with a 4. And I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll buy 2. Right. So ended up going through it, and it was great. Like I've heard from other folks, Adam, highly articulated, kind of got panicked when he was doing it. And I think we had the benefit of, I don't know, it was pretty chill. And we knew we had like a 45-minute slot, right? I don't know. It just felt like a little bit more chill. What did you end up getting, Armory-wise, or if anything?
I took all 45 minutes to figure out what I got. And then when I got home on Monday, I was like, man, I should have got that green leather. I should have got the black leather. I ended up, every time I was going through and kind of figuring out which pieces I want, I kept gravitating towards the same pieces over and over again. I'm like, I already picked this one out. Why am I picking it again? But I mean, aesthetically, I think we all gravitate to a certain look or another. So that kind of makes sense. But yeah, I was surprised to see that green leather piece sell out on, I think it was Saturday that it was gone at Legion's Con.
Was it green or black first? I heard it was black first.
Might have been the black one, but I know by the end they were both gone. And of course, that's what I want now because I can't have it. And that's how we are as collectors, But seeing the colors in person was like, oh, wow. 100%. They look so, they're just vibrant. The colors are super nice. Being able to see the lights kind of play with the paints and how they shimmer. It was just really interesting to experience it right off the bat. And then the display by 4 Horsemen, just the way they had the whole stand set up and giving it more of that, medieval feel and giving it kind of a,
so cool
old Renaissance market type look to it. It was super fun.
I'll take the impure red and a piece of fish, or like and a piece of bread. This is what I ended up doing. And I think I'm actually only going to keep the one. This is like more of a purple figure, purple Valiant Knight, basically. And, I threw this on there because that was my thinking. What could I do for a lion? Or the closest I could do to that was like a bluish, purplish. And then the other one was all black leather. And again, hooking up a buddy who's more of a completist to make sure that he gets the black, because by the time he was able to do it at the con proper, it was gone. So
yeah, I went with the brown leather pieces and then the gunmetal. Those were kind of the 2 colors I really liked. And then they had asked us, to take a seat back during the convention and not go through, let everybody that hadn't been the intern do that. So held off on doing anything. And then there was no lines. Everybody was kind of done going through, and got word that, you guys can go through and build another figure if you'd like. And at the same time, Jared, Toy Bro, posted a pop and swap of the secret figure that was dropped on Saturday with the red Armory pieces. And I was like, well, guess I'm going to build a red knight. Thanks a lot, Jared. But yeah, seeing his pop and swap just got me to go back through and pick up a red knight to build my own, you know, lizard or snake man with the red armor. It just plays with the colors of the scales really well. So
we'll definitely get to that figure in a little bit. Let me real quick back up to the chat. Trevor was saying, absolutely, man. Sometimes that work under pressure, I experience that every single day as a teacher. So someone was asking me about like what that's like in relation to it's a presentation every single day, a good chunk of it, and then like creating an activity for people to do. So I totally understand the panic. You're just like, okay, cool. At a certain point, there's not much you can do. You just gotta go. And then who was it else? Brian Carr was saying they did a great job running the Armory smoothly, 100%. And so it seemed super successful. And as you pointed out, at a certain point, like the line lulled, people went through. So they kind of lifted limits, right? Or actually, I don't know if they lifted limit each time you went in, but it seemed like it was pretty easy for people to eventually, by like late Saturday and throughout Sunday, to go back and do it a couple different times. So
yeah, I think they did the ticketing system on Saturday, but I think by the time Sunday rolled around, and Jeremy spoke about this on Wednesday when he had Big Dub on, was they got rid of the tickets for Sunday, and it was just kind of come in as you'd like, and if you go through and there's no line, you want to go through again. It wasn't a lifted limit; you'd still have to go back through, but yeah. Big shout out to Joe Vesapolo and Big Greg
100%
running that. And then Adam at the checkout line there. Like the three of them just knocked it out of the park. It was super smooth.
I will go back to I think there was a shot earlier of Joe's shirt. Loved his Halloween shirt, which I told him about. Anyway, Adam, highly articulated, is looking at this and he's saying, looking at this pic, I think I got duped. How did I get the Valiant torso with a collar? I'm assuming maybe you didn't get the Valiant torso. The Valiant torso has the bib, right? Yeah. So it's okay. I know he was stressing. We were talking about it last night. I think it's just the panic of the moment of like, you know, what's up, Kenny? Anyway, I love that experience. I hope to see it replicated in multiple ways in the future, maybe different parts at some point, because I think they've definitely got something with this idea of the Armory experience. Because it's like, you know, I'm a Lego guy, right? I know what it's like to do a pick a brick, like do the walls or whatever. And that's the beauty of what the Horsemen have created with this sort of system of theirs, that they could do some really cool stuff with this concept.
Anyway, reminded me real quick, when I was in Dublin, we stopped by the Lego store, and you can like build your own character right at the Lego store and design it all uniquely. And that was kind of gave me a similar feeling, but with, you know, the 1/12 action figure, which is super cool, and how innovative, you know, nobody else is out there letting you build your own action figure. So
exactly, make your little minifig. And there's I just wanted to show Joe's shirt because I think it's dope. And then let's see, you know, again, not going to go through the whole thing, but I will say like that main lobby and this, which I've seen quite a few times in people's videos and photos, this was awesome. Like just to sort of see all these figures, and I found it kind of inspiring, and it also reminded me, whatever. I had brought someone a troll that they wanted from me, and I realized in looking at it there, I was like, oh no, I forgot something because of all the stuff that was in it.
Right.
Anyway, are you kind of, what's your context for Legions collecting? Are you like a completist by any chance? You have a ton of these things, or where are you at?
I've got too many of them. But not enough at the same time. Not a completist though. I'm not going back. I think when I joined the line, I got some words of wisdom from a few people in the community that said, just look forward, look at what's new and coming out. Don't try to chase any of the old grails unless, you know, that's your thing. But me, I like shooting them. I like getting them behind the camera. They are the most beautiful figures to take pictures of. So
100%.
That's really where I fell in love with them. So I'm just looking at what's coming ahead. I can't wait for Necronominus to get here. And it's been, it's been super fun just watching the lore. When I first joined it, I was like, there's not really any lore. I can shoot these however I want. And then Jeremy getting more and more involved with the company and really like helping not create the lore, but put it all in unison for us.
Yep.
Because it's always existed in the short
Make it more
bios
presentable.
Exactly.
Present it in a particular way. Yeah.
Yep. Just get it out of Eric's head and into somewhere that we can all access it. That's now I'm like full in on the lore, and I'm like, I'm not going to go back, which is good because they announced Xylona is going to come out with a V2. They're going to bring back all these bigger characters. We got Otho coming out. Spoilers for anyone that didn't watch G-Con or has been under a rock. But
we'll share some of that in a little bit if we have the time. But for sure, we'll get to things like they announced some amazing stuff. But yeah, let's get through this intern. I'll just say maybe one other thing. So this was, so for me, it was started with the I can't say build a figure experience, Armory experience. And then we did the painting. And so with the painting, you get split up, and we ended up with Cameron. And it was awesome to sort of be in his office, a bunch of folks in there, and just sort of hearing his process. Particularly what I zeroed in on is how he's talking about like the storytelling aspect of it, and like, the different choices that they make to kind of imply backstory or lore through color or whatever finish or whatever it is. And I thought that was just absolutely really just awesome. And also hearing his backstory, I'm kind of a nerd in that way of just sort of like, where do folks come from? I think it's the teacher in me too. It's sort of like, what's your backstory? How did you get where you're at? And I like to, share that with young people in particular, because it's never a straight line. It's never like, I studied hard, went to this college, got it on my resume and got the job. Because that's just not the reality for most people. But it's really cool. And it was great to like meet people. That's the other thing I'll say about Intern, like, because some of the people that were there, including UCD Amazing here, who've like, I watch his stuff like all the time. It was neat to sort of share space with him, get to talk with him about stuff. Robo was like right next to me when I was shooting stuff. And they were actually the first two people that I met as we were waiting for the sort of get started after the Armory experience. And then it was you guys. It's you and is it Sam?
Yep.
Yeah. That was sort of like in between as we were kind of moving around. So anyway, it was really cool to kind of see the painting thing, and just what blew me away, what I took away from this is how, there's not this whole business of like, well, we write down the sort of recipe for like what it is, and then we send it to them with all the Pantone colors. So for them to like replicate, it literally is, we do it. We send them the paint master and they replicate it. And somehow at the factory, they just, handle it, which actually is probably the best way, because it's less about guessing. It's like, we see what you went for and we're going to try our best to replicate it. And
yeah, I imagine like accessibility to certain brands or certain paint lines, it differs by country. And so, but yeah, that blows my mind too, that they just put it in a box, ship it over and say, make this.
Yep. So anyway, that's pretty much, there's other videos. I'll be putting more on that, but we already sort of shared that you get to hang out with Nate to hear a little bit about packaging and design, and a little bit about illustration, depending on the questions you ask. You get to hear from Trevor about the photography work. You get to hear from either Cameron or Sherry, depending on which group you're in, to talk about paints. And you get to hear from Eric Treadaway and sit with him while he actually like sort of live sculpts. And it's like freestyling. It's like, give me 3 words, and then I'm going to work that into a sculpt. And so what was funny is Do I even have the photos? Maybe I have the photos here. Let's see. I think I do. Here, yes, I might have some photos. Hey, that's me. Let's hide this. That's go walking in there. I look so scared and worried. Here you go. Okay, so this was the group before us. This was what was on the screen after he was sort of done, which was just hilarious because they hadn't revealed that essentially.
That was ours.
Was that yours?
Yeah, dude.
What was the prompt?
So he kind of threw it out there, like, what do you guys want to see? And a few of us had been there before, so we kind of laid back and we're waiting for other people to prompt. Somebody said a creature. I'm like, okay, great. Eric loves creatures. And then I said, how about something from the desert? And then David Williams said a lizard. So we got, a desert lizard. And I think Angie, Dusty's wife, had said a dragon before anything got started. And, kind of jokingly build us a dragon. And then at the end of it all, with the prompts, the desert, the lizard, we kind of got a dragon, and we kind of got a sneak peek at something that may have ended up in our hands.
Yeah, it's hilarious because it was, and I feel like at G-Con, Jeremy, if I'm remembering correctly, he mentioned your guys' group, and sort of like he walks in at the end of it and sees like, wait, that looks like something that we're going to reveal, either the dragon, but really also the snake, right? The Ninian, right there. You got it. Which I thought was hilarious too. So this was you guys. For us, I don't think I actually have pictures ready of what we had, but our prompt was pumpkin, Wendigo, and night. So we ended up with a Wendigo helmet. It was a pumpkin helmet with Wendigo sort of horns, and then on a knight's helmet. But it's cool to see him do it in real time. It was funny to hear Robo and Darius kind of going back and forth throughout, like they were tripping. He's a sorcerer, he's a wizard. And so shout out to Eric. That was great. And then I think the last thing was walking around the studio and getting a tour, which I will say in the back, there was sort of like this Dio being built, which was ended up being that sort of Mesoamerican, Mexica type temple that ended up having that guy that you were just holding up kind of like hidden in a cavity in the glass case. So anyway, it was really cool. I don't know if I had any other photos. No, but cool.
Yeah, what's cool with the tour with Jim, last year we did the tour, and in the back they had Dan and Bill Mancuso were back there, but they were working on the full size displays. So they were still finishing those up, and they had a couple of ladies who are seamstresses for Broadway that were still sewing the pieces onto the mannequins, onto Ziri. And then this year they were back there finishing up the dios. So, they're procrastinating like the best of us, which is super fun to see,
Or they have crazy amounts of work. Rob Zamora dropped in a little late, but thank you so much for the super chat, man. I appreciate you. And I love meeting Rob for the first time in person too, after kind of like seeing each other in live chats and stuff. Said, hey, yo, there's the El Spooky Zorro emojis. Late to the show, and he loves you. Toma, I love you. I love you. Hey, you don't have the little heart things. What's up, Rob? Okay. So let's, that was Intern. I had a great time. Again, I will definitely share as much as I can in terms of like editing video and all that soon. But let's start looking at stuff ephemera properly, aside from that stuff. So this is you, and again, this was the dress code today, and I didn't put 2 and 2 together. But talk to me about your work. Like let folks know kind of about your work with action figures, the photography, and in particular this year at Legion's Con, you did something new, which was be a vendor. Can you sort of share what you were doing, where you were at, and how that was for you?
Yeah. So I think over the last few years, I've wanted to do more with my collection, and I've acquired so many fun action figures and pieces, and wanted to bring them off the shelf and figure out how to display them, how to do something unique, and discovered from some friends doing local toy shows that there's a whole action figure photography community. And I was taking pictures of them and just keeping them on my phone. And one of my friends was like, "Hey, dude, like we do this. We've got this group that we're in called ACBA, and we're like, there's a whole community of us out there. You should put your pictures online." I had never thought about that. I'm like, my Instagram was pictures of my food, my dinner. I love cooking too, so it wasn't like just restaurant shots. It was a little more interactive, but still, I've started, you know, putting the pictures up there, and then discovered this line and really like fell in love with shooting this figures and the amount of detail in the sculpts. Um, and I've always wanted to, bring them out in a different way. So in May of this year, I got to do Phoenix Fan Fusion. It's kind of our like Phoenix Comic Con, if you will.
Okay.
And we did a toy photography panel there, which um, prompted me and a few of our other friends that were on the panel to print out some of our work and distribute it out to people. And
Awesome.
being able to see the work like in hand was super special. I was like, I think I want to do something more with that. And I had talked with Trevor last year about wanting to bring some prints or something to the con. And I
Mhm.
love his, his calendar. It's become one of my highlights every year, 3 years
Yep.
in a
Yep.
row, picking up the calendar from Trevor. I was like, how can I do something, unique? And I thought I had just shot the Christmas figures, the Santa Claus,
Yep.
and it's like, why not make, postcards, actual postcards to
I love it.
make it a bit more unique. So I took
So
some of
this
my
isn't a
favorite
I was gonna
shots.
say this isn't a Christmas one. I was just gonna show this photo that you did with some of these the skeletons, which I don't know, was that shot for the postcards or was that an older shot that you had and turned into a
So
postcard?
none of it was shot distinctively for the
Got it.
postcards.
Yeah.
I kind of went through, looked at my work, and then I did like a "Wish You Were Here,"
Yep.
just
It was great.
being silly
So
with it. And then I obviously did not have a booth, but was kind of figuring out like, is this something that I can, bring to the convention? And I don't want to sell outside of the con.
mhm.
Give everyone who's paid for their tables and our vendors their proper dues. And my buddy Brian Carver Customs happened to reach out to me and say, "Hey, have you ever
Mhm.
thought about selling your prints at the cons?" I was like, "Funny you asked, dude. Like, I've been thinking about it since Legion's Con last year, and 8 of the 12 shots that I want to go with have your torches in them. So,
Oh, yeah,
do you
yeah,
got
right
any
there.
room on the booth?" So, Brian and Stacy, absolutely amazing people. They let me set up at their booth with them and be, a vendor at their table. So I had a little turnstile with some postcards, and it was super fun to get to interact with the community on an additional level, not just chatting with everyone in the lobby and throughout the con, but being able to tell everybody like what I'm passionate about with this line and kind of what draws me into it all. So that added even more, even more of a special touch to this convention for me.
I'm so bummed that I didn't actually get to see the postcards in person. Like I counted 8 other tables other than the one the booth that I was working, which was the Spiro Toys AWOC one. So there was like so much that I missed. So this past week has been me going through like con coverage and being like, oh, look at this stuff that I was near but didn't get to see. Love
Yeah,
the
I mean, there's so much stuff to consume. It's
mhm,
Jeremy had calculated, 10 minutes at each table. If you're not accounting for lines or anything, you're just
mhm,
hopping. So, I mean, with the lines or with running a table, being present, although it wasn't my table, I wanted to be present there and be part of the vendors representing that table. So, it's too much stuff to see, which is incredible to say that, there's this, large of a community of us. There's so much art in that room. and then you don't want to just scan by a table. It's not, there's so many details on every custom head sculpt. It's a lot to take in, but it's super fun.
So I just realized I went back to this for two reasons. One, you said you don't want to sell them after, but I don't know if you have any left. Are you thinking about trying to get them to people still,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Got it.
I just meant like I didn't want to show up at the convention, not have a spot at a vendor table and be in the lobby selling things. That's
for sure.
Didn't want to disrespect any of the vendors that way. So when I was offered a room at the table, I was like, all right, let's go in and actually make these happen. But yeah, I do have some left. If anybody's interested, just shoot me a DM on Instagram. Funny enough, Brian Carver Customs, I forgot to give him his set. I was gifting him a set, for having me there. Then he texted me yesterday and he's like, dude, I forgot to grab those postcards from you. So, I mean, it's that busy that we all just kind of lose touch of everything there.
Oh, totally. Someone brought me, Adam, he's like, hey, I got some figures for you. And that was the beginning of the thing. Then I'm heading home. I don't know if I was already home or what. And I see, hey, you left the figures I brought for you. And I was like, oh, crap. And then the other thing that triggered this is you had your I didn't realize you shot this after Intern. So there's a bust there, and this, I forgot to mention that if you are Intern, there you go, you get the opportunity, you get a bust, and you get to paint it. And there were only 3 of us who ended up actually painting it. It was Curtis, Maverick, and myself. And for me, like, I don't do this, but I've said this before, like, when am I going to get Sherry and Cameron from Forestman Studios to basically guide me to paint? Right. So I did it. Plus the paint's for free, right? Like, one less thing for me to have to deal with, and I don't have to clean up. So thank you, Sherry and Cameron. You're wonderful teachers. Anyway, I just wanted to bring those up. Was it generally good? Do you have as far as like tabling and getting stuff out there? Good reaction, good response?
Yeah, I think the response was super positive. People were excited to see, photography being brought out of, our phones, and we always see it, on the phone, getting a physical. And I mean, to repeat what I said, like, Trevor's calendars was the biggest inspiration. It was, wow, what a cool way to present, your work and what you do in a unique form, not just a print or anything like that. So it's something I definitely think I'll continue pursuing and be back next year, maybe with a different idea, maybe with different postcards. We'll just have to see.
I love the postcard idea, but I love the photos. Seriously, like, I don't want to gloss over that. And I'm kind of just sort of scanning. This was one that made it to one of the cards. Like, there's a lot of great choices that I can appreciate looking at this, in terms of like that big sort of negative space up there that ended up saying, wish you were here. But it's just kind of cool, kind of like communicating this weird loneliness of someone who presumably died in this cell and is now skeleton. But great shots. And are you a photographer, like, by training? Is this no? So this is, you started with action figures and food, sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, I've been passionate about photography my whole life, but I've never taken it quite as seriously as when I got behind the camera for the toy photography. I always loved shooting outdoors or traveling, but not by trade. By trade, I was doing logistics, supply chain stuff for Fortune 20 companies. So the art was just inside me and like had nowhere to go, which finding an outlet for it was super rad.
I love it, man, because it really just brings these toys to life, and you're documenting these things that you had at one point. So, presumably, at least that's how I look at it when I'm like doing little shorts and taking pictures or video of my figures. It's like this, I may or may not have this figure forever, right? But I will.
Yeah, it's a fun way to document it. Totally.
Love this, and the lighting, the moodiness. If you want to check out some cool photos, definitely hit up tbellet at IG, tbellet. But I'm still not saying that right. Sorry, but I try my best. And you also, real quick, you did some street team stuff in Arizona, right? Recently.
Yeah, so that was I've really become passionate about this line over the last 3 years and 3-4 years. Thanks, Nolan. I appreciate that, man. Over the last few years, just like really fall in love with not just the line, but the community. And
Mhm.
I want to grow it out here in Arizona. I mean, Sam and I met David Williams in New Jersey, even though he lives
Mhm.
an hour away from us. Like it took us all flying out to New Jersey 3 years ago to meet. We were like, oh, we live an hour apart and we like this line. Like, so I talked with Jeremy last year and said, I'd love to kind of grow the community out here. I do toy shows in the valley probably once a quarter, and said, can we work out some sort of street team initiative where we bring a 4 horseman presence? So
Yeah.
it was super cool to work with the studio on that. They were really great. We got a good variety of inventory, and it was right after the skeletons had just dropped. So I think there was a good amount of buzz about the community.
Nice. And did
And
you
the
have them
figures,
there?
we got lucky and had a dozen
Wow.
skeletons, and it
Okay.
was kind of right after they had sold out online before any of the shows had happened. So
Beautiful.
we did the right thing and limited them, to one a person. But I was shocked that we had a whole queue and a rush right at door opening of people, and not just for the skeleton. They were, just excited about having the line in
Yep.
person in
Yep.
Phoenix. So
I would
yeah, that
love to
was
see a
super
similar
special.
thing out here. Oh, sorry. I just gonna say I'd love to see a similar thing out here because not everybody can go right to the East Coast, and there's a
Yeah.
lot. The horsemen show up a lot on the East Coast. They happen to be. I say that as they're in Nevada right now, in Vegas at Decon, but yeah, and so Ramirez has and when Walter was here, they started the Mythic Meetup up in Sacramento, and I would love to see that grow as well as maybe down here by the bay. That's about 2 hours from where I'm at. I got to meet some folks at Legion's Con. Like you were saying, you met David out in Jersey. I got to meet some folks who were like right around the corner and didn't realize that we were all into Legions. So we'll see. So this is kind of inspiring, and we'll see what we can do. I would definitely love to see more horseman presence out here, and I think there's like a hunger for it. And it just occurred to me, next week for the holiday, I'm gonna be in Phoenix and Sedona for like a couple of days with family. So I was like, oh, that's right. I'm kind of heading towards you next week. It's one of those things where I've been
a beautiful place.
I think we're only going. Well, anyway, I don't actually know the full logistics because my brain was in Legion's Con, and so I'm just gonna show up next week. But I might pick your brain about things to check out. All right,
dude.
let's talk about what else was going on. So I too was a vendor this year. That was kind of like that. Frankly, really made it possible for me to go, to sort of help out Spiro and Animal Warriors of the Kingdom. This was myself and Adam on banner duty, while the rest of the team were setting up the sort of like you'll see later. There's like this lit up 2 tables that are amazing. This cool display. So it was Jason, Sequoia, Derek, Adam, and myself. So you see the AWOC Talk boys sort of setting up banners, and again, I'll probably put these together as video at some point. There's all stills, and this was the final thing, and I was super impressed to kind of see it like
display.
Yeah, right. It was like, oh, like we all of a sudden a like trade show. I was like, that's cool. Awesome banners, tall, so you could see it, and it was great to just see all the figures in one place. Derek definitely had like this real vision about like how to organize the space from a retail perspective, and super smart about like, hey, we've got one of everything that we sell on the table, and as things sell out, we remove them. And I don't know, it was just really cool to kind of hear that part of things. It's super nerdy, but I'm into it. And they got like, these little signs, and we also had this awesome custom flags that were made by Brian George of aka Endless Fables that we were selling as well. Super cool. Anyway, just so for me, being a vendor was interesting, and admittedly, like I said, I saw this, and then occasionally I made it. There were 8 particular tables that I really wanted to say hello to folks that and see their stuff. So some of which we'll take a look at today. But anyway, it was really cool, and I really appreciate Spiro for making that possibility. Nolan's asking, are those posters on the table? Yep, they were free posters that they were giving away, and so that was super cool. Ray
Even
says, hello,
cooler,
good to
they
see you.
hid some of them throughout the hotel, and they just randomly placed posters like on windows, like by the elevators on different floors, and they left some hammers. You see those hammers back there? Yeah. They just had, 3 or 4 hammers just sitting on the windowsill with a poster. And I was going back to the room and I was like, oh, somebody forgot their stuff. And I was like, wait, this is way too meticulously displayed to be an accident. And I was like, I just got a new hammer for my AWOC figures. Pretty sweet.
That's what Gorilla was saying. I'm sorry. That's what Jason was saying. Wait, no, I'm blanking. My brother hit me up. He's like, hey, did Jason just, I think he dropped some stuff. There's like a bunch of posters right by the elevator and some product. Like, should I bring that to you? I was like, no, it's guerrilla marketing, aka littering. But I'm glad that and it's also cool because they do give away the not only the posters but the hammers as well at the booth, and we got there were no more. Definitely, I think by like end of Saturday, they were gone. But it's kind of cool to give to folks, buying some stuff. Here's some cool supplies, even for like, it's a Legions centric show. So, there's a ton of customizers who would love some awesome fodder to do some cool things with. So I had fun being able to hand that to people. And yeah, it was cool. All right, let's see what else I'm honestly forgetting. Yesterday I finally got around to like posting all the selfies. You mentioned one of your highlights was meeting folks and being able to connect with folks that you see online, or maybe I'm assuming for you it's people that you met the last couple of years and get to reconnect with. How did that go for you? Or you like me and forget to take selfies? Because most of this was like either, I think this was Trevor's shot, either, hey, can I get a copy of that photo? Or by Sunday, as I knew I was leaving, I was like, oh my God, I need to make sure that I take pictures. So
yeah, I think last year I was much better at taking pictures. This year I was just running around, just excited to see everyone. And by the end of it all, I'm like, oh, I forgot to get a picture with you and forgot to get a picture with you. Yeah, totally. And so it's, and then you never know like how people are. You don't want to like come off like, hey, let's take a picture. And then you run off because you literally only have a few seconds to talk to everyone until you got to go and talk to the next person, So I did get some pictures. I regret not going around Friday during setup and getting more footage of people's tables and displays. 2 years back, that's something I really focused on, was like capturing all the different tables. This year I totally missed out on that. And there's so much art to look at that it's, I think it was last year Bill went through and documented almost every single table, which was a pretty daunting task.
Dorklair.
Yep. Bill from Dorklair. I think he went through and got every table documented, but I've got some selfies that I gotta get posted in the Cabal. I feel like it ends when I finally post them. So I'm going to hold on to them, for a little bit longer.
Yeah, that's all this was just like a, hey, like, let me quickly try and take pics. Speaking of Dorklair. And, I just realized, again, it's not something I do a whole lot of in real life. So I was like, oh, how do I can we take a picture? Right. And by Sunday, I was like, you know what? If I don't do this, I'm just not going to have pictures. So I did, but yeah, there's David. So it was really cool seeing folks. And, like here, for me, like these are folks that John and Joe that I've been hanging out with online for like so long now that like I actually got to see them in real life, and it was awesome. And, you know, trying my best to make sure I at least sit down or have a real conversation with folks. And then later it's like, oh, we forgot to take pictures. So, hey, let's take a quick picture. So
yeah, John and Joe, I talk to them all the time as well. And John also does amazing photography, Green Emerald Night on Instagram.
Yep.
And we'd never met in person, but we talk every week. We're liking each other's posts. And
Mhm.
it was same with Joe. We're always talking about legions and just being able to see everyone in person, some that you've never met before, like John and Joe. That was my first time meeting in person with them. And Rob as well. El
Yep.
Spooky Zorro.
Send him photos. He said, I don't know if you saw
Yep.
that. I love all the art, Joe says, but talking to everyone was what made Legions Con special for me. And Joe and I have spoken a lot about this because it's one of those things where you're like, I'm not sure what it's going to be like, you know, talking to people. And both he and I were like, oh my God, everyone was awesome. And I, you know, we were both surprised by how much we were able to like just connect with folks. So, man, absolutely. What's up, Inhaled Farts? Love it. Anyway, let's see what else. Oh, with this one, you mentioned the influencers and everything, and I wanted to start here because I do have a video of this thing that I'm about to describe, but this was my Friday night, man, and I was kind of blown away. First off, Thursday at Intern, like I said, I got to meet with folks whose like work I love. I watch everything D Amazing puts out, everything that Toy Bro puts out, Dork Lair, but like Dork with Bill, I've been able to interact with him and hang out online before. Toy Bro a little bit, mainly on Discords, but like I've never really engaged with D. Never, other than on a live stream with Dan Larson, who was also there, and Robo. And these are folks who's like stuff I watch all the time. But Friday night, at Intern, I got to meet them, which was kind of cool. It was a nice little icebreaker. Then Friday night, Jason from Spiro was like, hey, we're going to have Dan Larson, Jared Toy Bro, and Robo come up and check out the check models. These were things that like literally had just arrived to Jason before the show. He hadn't fully unboxed them yet himself. And we didn't bring them down Friday to set up. They were still up there, and we're going to bring them out on Saturday morning. And so in many ways, it was the first time that he was really able to kind of handle them, and he wanted to show those guys. So he's like, hey, let's all go up there and maybe shoot a little video and just hang out with them. And man, it was like a weird thing of like, one, I'm excited to see these things that I love in this form. Two, it's like, oh my God, I'm hanging out with these guys, and like we're all just nerding about this stuff, but this time in real life. Like, you know, every Saturday I'm nerding out with Robo, but not really. Like he's telling me this stuff, but like, yeah, we're hanging out, but you know, not really. But it was kind of cool to do this all in person and to see these things and just to kind of like to hear their feedback and thoughts. And so it was a trip. Like that was not what I was planning to do. I had no concept that this was the kind of thing that might actually happen at Legions Con. And I will say it's a little bit weird to be like, hey, let's go up to the room and look at some unreleased toys. It's like, what is this? Is this how like weird arms deals are done? Or like, you know, it's like all of a sudden everybody's walking into this room, but it was cool. And strangely, again, I thought I walked out of this experience with these guys and then went downstairs and then got asked to do a similar thing for a different toy line. And I was just like, wait, is this just a thing people do? They're like, we're going to invite people up to the room and show them toys. But at a certain point, it was just like, yeah, I want to look at these toys. And it was a really big deal for me to be, particularly with Adam, because Adam and I do like an AWOC talk show. And so to share space together, he and I had met last year around this time, just socially. I was up in Vancouver and we were just hanging out. This time it was us actually sitting with these AWOC toys that we love, handling prototypes with Jason and Derek, like these folks, and Sequoia who like work on it. And then Robo and Jared and Dan Larson are there, and it's just like, okay, again, not how I was expecting Legions Con to go, but I just wanted to share that because it was awesome. Yeah, and so I don't know if you've been watching those guys and sort of their coverage, but it's been kind of cool too because like Robo's relatively new to Legions.
Yeah, brand new.
And yeah, and I know Darius D's been doing stuff, but it was just kind of cool to see them and be there during Intern and then G-Con and all that, and then now go out and kind of expose their audiences, which are huge, to this stuff. So this was like the weekly rewind this weekend where Robo kind of ran through his coverage. If you haven't seen it, please go check it out. It's really cool to sort of see and hear from his lens, and always entertaining. He's actually going to be doing a live, I think tonight. Yeah, 8:00, where he and Veebs are going to be talking about it. And so that's kind of cool. And then I think, do you actually spend a lot of like, it's not something that I ever predicted that I do, but I spend so much time now, like on YouTube watching stuff. Is that part of your practice, or you're shaking your head?
So much time, dude. I'm shaking my head as in, yes, so much time. Rob Zamora can attest, like we are in the same chats all the time. I've got like a schedule, and every day of the week now there's something that I'm watching, I've got my routine. I've got my shows, Dorklair, Legion's Lounge. I'm going to forget them if I try to name them all, but Unparalleled Universe, Robo Don't Know. It was super rad to meet Robo and to get that interaction at Intern. Like you mentioned, it was a little bit more intimate, right? It was before the big con, and we were able to have some words. I was actually the only person outside in front of Four Horsemen when he got there for Intern. So I like greeted him to the studio, and he's like, "Is this the right place? Where is everyone?" I'm like, "Everyone's inside. Please follow me, sir." So super funny. But then I got to have dinner with him and Big Dub on a Sunday night. So that was like super special. They're celebrities in a way to us. So yeah, really cool 100%. To meet them and realize, they're just big nerds just like all of us, and it's super fun to get to interact with so many people from the community. So yeah, it's like YouTube, like you said, it's the people who are behind this doing what we're doing now, but then it's all the people in the chats, right? Like that's where we get to connect with folks, and then we see them in real life. Like Josh says, Sunday through Friday, it's like just stream. So it's a cool thing. It's never again something that I assumed I would do, but here we are. But of course, like it's all super brilliant. I got to name this, like, shout out to the Four Horsemen. This is something that my brother and I were talking a lot about, just like how smart and strategic, not in a weird, like, I don't know, it like not in a deceptive way, right?
Yeah,
in an innovative and creative
and organic, Yeah, smart to bring in certain people who already do such a great job of being sort of ambassadors around toys and collecting. And so, this was the amazing stuff. Like I think Bill, Jared, a couple of people got the Ninny and Infantry stuff early to be able to drop videos about. And so that folks, as they're sort of hearing that aren't at the con, as they're hearing about like these figures that drop, there's content out there for them to check out and actually see. So I thought it's super brilliant. What do you think? You're holding them up there.
Oh, I love them, man. It's so great.
Yeah.
And such a departure from everything we're used to with the line up to this point. But to see and to have seen, Eric and the way that he sculpts, it's, he sculpted every single one of these scales separately. He didn't just make one and then copy and paste them over and over again. So when you like really look at the design, you can tell it's like, and then it's compatible with the rest of it. So like Toy Bro popping and swapping night parts with this guy, like in his hotel room, like right after he picked him up. And then just like, I think, is that D?
This is D stuff. Clips? Yeah. So cool. Like I absolutely love this figure. And the colors in particular on the back are just perfect. Like the way that thing looks. And that's the thing that I've really appreciated about the past couple of waves ever since Poxis is like the color that is being worked into these things, but where it's appropriate, right? It's like, but I dig this thing so much. And of course, well, I don't know if folks know me, but absolutely love them kind of taking real world stuff, especially from, stuff, whether it's Mexica stuff or more and more, we're seeing stuff out of whether it's China or Japan. So the real world things kind of influencing the armor and weapons. So this Ninian infantry thing is dope. And there's other coverage here that I wanted to highlight, like this thing. I didn't even know this thing happened until
the butter dragon.
Yeah, I didn't know it actually happened until like I was flying away, I want to say. But I was at the airport sort of looking at stuff. And I was just like, oh man, I totally missed that whole thing. Just because I just busy and kind of moving around. Were you able to see this in the Butter Dragon prototype?
Yep, I did see the Butter Dragon. I was with Jared Toy Bro, just walking through the hallway, like, oh wow, what's going on over here? It's an actual prototype from the factory that they sent out, and then Eric and Jeremy are just out there. Like Eric Treadaway is just openly talking with everyone in the community about this thing, and they weren't hesitant about having people come and like, of course nobody picked it up and like ran around with it, but you could actually like go and like pick up that little piece, and then to see them like move the articulation, it was a lot less fragile than the paint prototypes as far as not damaging the paints. I don't remember if Sherry said she spent a month painting that dragon. Like, you don't want anybody handling the painted one and then her having to go touch up everywhere before they send it out. So being able to see that and have them actually move it around with the articulation was super cool.
Yeah. And just everything about this dragon is amazing. A lot of people have been talking about it. Here's Toy Bro, of course. His coverage is awesome as well. He's kind of one of my like go-to for reviews and wanting to see figures like this. He's kind of got like this awesome, like, these are the things I hit. It's exactly what I want to see. Awesome. Between him and Bill and D Amazing, it's like I get a sense of what these figures are about. Totally. So he did a cool one breaking down the 2-pack of the Mythic Legions Saturdays exclusive, which was great. And then the Ninian infantry. Definitely check those out because they take them through their paces and you get a real good sense of what's going on. I just want to shout out some other folks that were there that did some great coverage, including on the Adam Power channel, who definitely is excited to see more Mexica stuff being dropped in the line. He's got some great some great coverage here of them sort of setting up the dragon that I did see as I was sort of walking out in there before they put him into the glass cases. Got to see a little bit of this. And you kind of see these two again, like the con exclusives pretty early. So that was great. Check out Adam Power, aka Is. And
with Is having a Mesozoic, tribute figure years and years back from Four Horsemen, during G-Con, he was like, "Thank you for giving her a girlfriend," or giving him a girlfriend. Just ran up and hugged Eric and everyone.
He's hilarious, and that's great. And then Carlos, the Badass Reviews, who was actually an intern with us, and I got to see him sort of. I'm just like, I do the channel, right? We're talking here, but like I haven't fully wrapped my head around what it means to do a channel, or so I see other people like, man, Carlos is like moving from floor to floor, moving around the floor, doing interviews, coming through, and like it's got the whole thing going on. Intern for a day, I saw him like pulling Jeremy aside. They're doing an interview. I was like, okay, that's cool. I don't know that I can do that, but I don't need to because he's doing it and I get to see it. I'm going to hear his interviews, and it was great. And so we'll actually see a lot of his stuff probably today because he covered a lot of it. And basically, I'm going back and seeing the con because there's so much that I missed. So all of these here, whether it was the legendary Meta Traveler stuff, I definitely didn't see the Von Berg Studios table. These guys are in there too. Like interview with Eric talking about the dragon. So interview with Jeremy from Intern. Definitely check his stuff out. And
yeah, Carlos got super good energy, man. Like really passionate guy, and it resonates in, you know, his production, everything he brings forward. So I always look forward to seeing his content.
Ooh, did I not drop his stuff? I did not drop his stuff. Hold on. I gotta fix that for those of you who are all here. Let me just drop this in. Awesome. Get that link in there. Toy Pick community, man. I was super excited to be able to see these guys in real life. And I think the first time I actually got to talk with them, they all seemed properly what's the word? They had been drinking. I'll just say that. And so they were extra fun to be hanging out with. This was like, I think Friday night. Yeah. When I saw them and got to engage in the game, the drunken game of guess the price of the dragon. So that was fun. Those guys were awesome. And then they came back and did like a bunch of coverage. So I definitely would love for you all to go check it out. They did like on the road kind of stuff. They walked around each day in the con and kind of interviewed people. It was fun stuff, great coverage. And you actually kind of get to see the floor a lot and just sort of the vibe, and people walking around, you know, they're pulling people aside. Hey, let's talk real quick. So I think that's another great way. If you weren't there, or if you were there like me and missed most of it, kind of a cool way to kind of see it all. And Yimbo was there in his Deadpool onesie, which is cute.
Yimbo is awesome.
Did you get pulled aside for interview?
No interview, but I don't think we had met in person. We might have met last year briefly, but got to actually have some conversations with him. And I happened to be on my phone on the phone with my wife while she was in the middle of buying a new car. And I was like, Jimmy, Yimbo, like, help me talk her out of buying this one. And he was like, all right, let's go. Put her on speakerphone. Just totally game. But yeah, super cool getting time with those guys and getting to chat, just casual conversation too. Like, not every conversation was about toys. Most of it was, but a lot of us got to get to know each other better, just in a general sense, you know? So
100%.
I think that makes it even more special.
I had no idea that. I knew Yimbo was a teacher like myself. I didn't know that Toy Father was also in education. Like, yeah, I just kind of got to meet folks. I love talking with you and Sam during lunch at Intern, and just kind of like hearing a little bit about Arizona. I think at one point we were talking about the economy and buying home, but yes, it was right. Great, because like we're all there for another, you know, we're all like have these shared passions, and it's kind of cool to like connect with other like-minded folks on, you know, certain things, and just kind of hear about life elsewhere. I love doing that. Of course, Bill is like the master of coverage, and it was kind of cool to see his wrap up the other day with Chris, who was actually there. Like, that was awesome. I was like, oh my God, Chris, you don't know who I am, but I'm so happy to see you. And I miss you on the stream. So, but it was cool to kind of see them talk about it the other day and kind of wrap Larry in, who wasn't there.
Should have been there, Larry.
Next year. That's it sounds like that might be the thing that happens. But also, I want to shout out Steph and Bill's work around Glios. They're doing a little bit more around that kind of stuff. And that was also awesome to see for me as someone who doesn't actually sort of do the Glios thing. But it was really neat to see that, especially this year, the way that Glios kind of had an awesome extra shout out, more of a shout out than usual. Like, they're there all the time, but this year they got something a little special, so we'll get to that. Yeah, let's see.
Glios is so tempting, but I I can't have another.
Yeah.
I would love to, but I think that's a pit that you can easily fall down and get deep into.
Well, you might have a mythic adjacent option to kind of get into Glyos, but not, right?
Right.
Which would come up. And just a shout out again to Dorkla. There's a ton of great like photos of booths that like I was like, oh, that was there. That's awesome. And just great photography. I've got a ton of shots of him. This is down here. This is all stuff that he was dropping as G-Con was being sort of unveiled and they were doing the reveals. And so I was kind of on one end. And so a lot of my photos are basically of Bill's backside taking these pictures. So, but he got some great detail shots and real early. So definitely check those out if you want to sort of see what these prototypes look like of the figures that are upcoming. And there's multiple shots. I'm just sort of like cycling through, but really cool. You know, I didn't even get to, you know, they took these and then put them in a glass case. I didn't stop once to look at them the entire time once they're in that glass case. I meant to. My brother kept saying, did you see that? You see how tall it is? I was like, no, I kind of want to. And I think I stopped once by the dragon once it was already in the glass case. But yeah, that was that drunken Toy Daddy's guess the price game that we were playing. So
yeah, I think Friday night we were hanging out. We had checked out all the dios with all the figures displayed, and then kind of congregated back into the lobby. And then I think it was me and Big Dub and maybe one other person were talking, and Eric Miller walks by and goes, "Did you see the secret figure?
Yeah.
Did you see the secret drop?" We're like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Come with me right now to the dio."
And you're the one who told me, by the way. And so I went, I also kind of went to see.
Like,
yeah.
Late Friday night, they just snuck that into the dio. It's like, wow. Just people zooming in on their cameras to like see the paint applications on the joints. Like, okay, this is way too clean. This has got to be a production figure. And
again, going back to that smart creation of buzz, right? It's like it's clever stuff. And again, I don't think it's in good fun. It's you know, it's part of our nature as nerds to be like, what does this mean? What is that thing? And
totally, dude.
Anyway, shout out to Bill for his awesome coverage. And I'll just shout out a couple of the other folks real quick. Cullen, Toy Culprits, again, literal sorcerer. He was dressed up at one point, but through him, I got to see some customs that I was like, man, I didn't even know those were there. So if you're curious, definitely go check out his coverage, which I will put right now for the folks live. Let's see. Oh, Machu was, did I lose you? Either I lost you and hopefully I'm still connected. Okay, cool.
You're still live. Dogs are barking. I'm going to go double check the front door real quick.
All good. Handle it. Shout out to Machu, Machu, who's been on the show before, but he's got some great coverage. In particular, him and Jay Shot did a stream with the AWOC boys on Thursday night, right? I think it was like Thursday morning or something. Jay Shot texted me. He's like, hey, are you coming to the stream at Chubsy's? And I was like, honestly, I have no idea. I didn't know about it. And I don't know what's going on. And I'm here in Jersey. I don't know anything. And he's like, well, it's also in Jersey down the street. I was like, honestly, I don't know anything about it. So this is one of those examples where I got to actually still see it because of the awesome coverage by Machu and Jay Shot, Between Two Sentinels. Check them out. Trevor, of course, does Legion's Lounge with Nate and Bill, and they've been doing like their road to Legion's Con, and now they're doing their post Legion's Con wrap up. But every single time, there's always just some cool little insights about the line, about the community. Check them out. Again, just a quick kind of rundown of all the folks that were there doing some awesome coverage. This is a video by Big Dub, where he literally just kind of walks you through the entire thing. And you can kind of see he goes back to Intern, G-Con, goes through the whole 9 yards. So definitely worth checking out. And just kind of quick scrub. You can kind of see this is G-Con, kind of taking you through, shows you different booths. So again, sadly, it was my way of seeing stuff that I couldn't see in person just because of time and whatnot. Like this thing, man, I would have loved to have seen Hans's stuff. But the good news is One Oak Customs. Is that right? One Oak Customs. Hans will be here in 2 weeks. And we'll actually get to talk. So, like I was just saying, I missed his entire booth, but he'll be here in 2 weeks, and he's gonna give me a personal walkthrough of what he was able to share and what his experience was like. So, shout out to Big Dub. Awesome coverage. And now
real
we're here.
quick, you mentioned Trevor and Nate and Bill. Nate also had a book with Emil.
Oh yes.
And that was super special seeing, people that we've become friends with through Four Horsemen and Mythic Legions, but for them to branch beyond. And Nate had this story for 20 years in his desk, just sitting.
Yep.
And it took him meeting Emil and the two of them like coordinating for some beautiful artwork. And I recommend everybody pick this up on Amazon. It's available on Amazon. He sold out at the show. I got the last copy.
Nice.
Super excited to get it signed by them. But yeah, it's just the amount of art and creativity in that room that extends beyond just the Four Horsemen presence is just astonishing, man.
100%. I was one of those who got them on Amazon when they sort of announced it, right after announced it, and tried to like send them the next day. Like when I got it, like, oh, these are the figures. They were doing like this little giveaway thing.
Yeah.
But that was awesome to see. I've got, I think the 3 copies now in a 5th grade, 4th grade, and 3rd grade classroom in here in San Francisco. So
I love that. With my mom being a school teacher too, I've ordered a couple more copies. I'm gonna give her one to bring to the classroom, and giving one to my niece for Christmas. It's like,
if people didn't get the reference, it is a story about the holidays, and you do see there's a scene real early on where you see sort of Santa and Mrs. Claus hanging out with some of the elves, and there's a bunch of toys on the floor. Yeah, and you kind of see some Legions figures, both mythic and cosmic, as well as maybe a transforming robot truck. So there's a couple of cool stuff in there, and I just think that's really cool. Like that, how cool is that? All right. So you mentioned ton of talent at this thing, but we can't forget that the main reason we're all there is to celebrate this toy line that we love and this studio that we're really into, who we're celebrating a huge anniversary, right? Both the 25-year anniversary of Four Horsemen as a studio, and then the 10th anniversary of Mythic Legions. And at the beginning of every Legions Con, the day before they do G-Con, I know we could be here forever. I'm not going to go through like every single figure, but I just like want to, if folks didn't know, they unveiled this wave called Reign of the Beasts that is available for pre-order now. And just kind of wanted to get your thoughts in general about these, or if there's any particular figures that you're excited about.
Oh man, we could talk about this for hours, right?
100%.
I think the diversity in the figures and the colors in the figures, pulling from like Roman influence to Mesozoic influence all in one.
Yeah.
The 3.0 body being revealed with the cackler and giving us, double joints on the elbows and knees. My favorite has got to be Leodicius, though, that beast of a lion.
Got it.
It's a little bit less worrisome on how much room I need versus the dragon. I think the dragon is the awe of the whole, showcase at G-Con, but Leodicius, like, wow, that's just look at it, take it in,
Yeah, so ogre scale, but larger because of the nature of the design and new, right? So this thing is going to have, that's what excites me too. I love the ogre scale figures, but I love the idea of giving them even a little more articulation. There's a butterfly on this thing, and I'm really kind of just curious how that's all going to work with, like, check out that armor and the cape. I'm just like, I can't totally wrap my head around how it's going to be, but I'm excited. Alternate heads, right? Are they faceplates? Is that what's going on with the?
You know what?
It's
I don't remember if it was an alternate head or a faceplate.
It's okay. This is why you watch Legion's Lounge and Bill from Dorkler, because they'll break it down.
Yep.
Oh, here you go. There's our answer.
We go.
There's our answer right there. Yeah. So awesome faceplates. And I love that. You know, that's the one thing that I love about modern collecting is that many of these companies will give us different expressions for different poses for you as a,
and then bringing out the real hammer. You know, Attila's been carrying around a fake hammer, as my boys from the Euro Legions like to point out.
Yeah. For those who aren't too super familiar with the lore, so this is the great beasts that are essentially created by the gods of mythos to do battle with the evil forces, the evil four horsemen. I'll sum it up that way. And this takes place, this moment, the reign of the beast in the lore takes place well before the main events that we've been used to. And so we were introduced to a guy named Attila, who's sort of the leader of the forces of Laodicea, who has this hammer, but it's a tiny, tiny version. But it's still ridiculously huge. And so when they brought this figure out during G-Con, Joe was carrying out the model and had the old hammer. There it is. That's the original figure.
The fake hammer.
Let me go ahead and if you can see the size of that hammer there in his right arm, that's a standard size Legions figure. And so Joe, who carried out the model, had that with him. And then he said, nope, just kidding. And kind of brought out the real hammer, which is huge. I think the idea is that it kind of shrinks and can grow depending on the user. That's sort of what I've heard. But anyway, it's a cool figure. What is it about this one, though, that of all of them that you're drawn to? Is it like the size? Is it the design? All the above?
Probably all the above. And then the just like same way I was drawn to AWOC was the animal anthropomorphic. Is that the word?
Anthropomorphic, yeah.
And anthropomorphic. That's always been something that I've been drawn to ever since I was a kid. So we haven't had that many animals in Legions. You know, we've had skeletons, knights, and I mean the knights and the medieval aspect, being born in France, was always my main draw to the line. Was the Valiant Knight stays my favorite figure up to this point. But this is definitely like seeing this in person, and then the size of him compared to a regular Legions figure is like, wow. And then the price point too for these things is just insane. You know, like they could have charged, you know, $120 for this guy, and they're not. It's comparable with I think they've always done good by us with the pricing for what you get. Like the amount of sculpt and detail and paint quality on these is
100%
amazing.
Yeah, I'm excited about this figure for sure. And I'm excited to figure out or just sort of see, I mentioned the butterfly already, the torso. There's a cut in there that we haven't gotten before, as well as the sort of ball joint at the waist. And then this stuff, I want to see how they handle those feline paws, right?
Yep.
Those little details, the CJSM soft goods are awesome, but like having that ring here, it's just like that kind of stuff. It's just, it's fantastic.
Yeah,
I'm into this figure. Obviously, I'm an animal warrior kind of guy too. The other one, I mean, they all are awesome. Like this, I'm blown away by the little dragon. But
the smoke effect on that Jinn demon is,
I really, really, really hope we get one for Kalazir, the previous blue-skinned Jinn that we've gotten. But I think for me, it's Basilia. And this was the first figure they revealed. And like, I think I have
right out the gate, man.
Yeah, we're like, oh, this is how we're going to start. Okay, cool. And we had a sense because it was again revealed that it was going to be the reign of the beasts. So we had a sense that we'd see some of the great beasts that are the sort of, I guess, inspiration or leaders of the factions, but we didn't know what they looked like. We'd never seen Basilia. And so again, for me, seeing the sort of Mesoamerican Mexica pulling from Aztec or Olmec or Mayan sort of traditions with the headdress, the colors, the sort of like Quetzalcoatl, Kukulkan kind of, serpent god. Brilliant. So good.
Yeah.
Like, look at those wings. And then it took me a while. I was hearing them presented, but didn't fully register how it all comes together. Am I right in saying that these are all the phoenix feathers from Sun Wukong? Do you remember hearing that?
I believe so. I think they're plug and play as well. So they're not fully sculpted in. You can rearrange them in different ways, which is
awesome.
But yeah, to see wow, I think I'd seen those feathers before. It was like Sun Wukong had them,
Yep.
Yeah, and like Nolan saying, the colors like across the whole wave, so many vibrant colors. Just wow.
Gorgeous. So gorgeous. And so I can't wait to sort of see the rest of the beasts too, because we've got 2 of them in this wave, and we've seen older versions of the others, but I can't wait to sort of see how they're going to update them. This stuff is great, man. For real. Like I hear you on, like you're saying, the night stuff being, from your past growing up in Europe or being French descent, and sort of like knowing that stuff. For me, obviously I'm not Mexican, but I was born and raised in Los Angeles, the Califas, right? And so like I was well aware of this stuff and love this stuff. And someday we'll get to the Philippines. We'll see some of that stuff in the line. But I'm just excited to see the world broaden a little bit, and to know that hopefully kids are playing with this stuff, but at least older kids like us are getting exposed a little bit to what's out there. Dungeons and Dragons has been real good about that in the last, say, 10, 15 years of bringing in other influences and trying to, like address diversity in their thing. And I think this is great because I think it just broadens our mind of what, like, to me, that's what fantasy's always been about, right? Letting us like open our minds to all sorts of stuff, whether that's, science fiction, magic, sorcery, or other cultures, other peoples, other experiences. So this stuff is dope. And I'm here for it. That's easily my favorite. The one thing I will say that I didn't actually say yet is the snake body.
Love that.
Dude. Yeah, I've been saying this year because of like things like in Motu, there have been like snake blower bodies. I know that G.I. Joe Classified is going into Cobra La, so I'm thinking like Globulus is a character that's going to be like this. I'm like, you know what? There was like a mermaid Kickstarter that launched this past year. I'm like, this should be the year where we get really different body types, and like in the fantasy end, like give us mer people, give us snake people, give us spider people. And I'd love to see legions doing it because they tend to do things really well.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, that's a perfect body for a Medusa figure obscura,
which is great because the community's actually been trying to do this with legions for a long time now. There have been customizers who've been like, I know Leland Okendo used to do that and like get these McFarlane snake figures and plop on a Legion's figure on top. People have done that with the Gremlins spider guy. So it's neat to actually see in factory studio Legion's parts what this could look like. And it's all pop and swappable. So folks are going to go to town with it. All right. That was the wave proper. It's kind of crazy, but we thought that was amazing, right? I'm kind of jumping because there was a bunch of other stuff that I'll circle back to briefly if we have time. But the end of it, it was like, okay, they brought in everybody from the studio that would like, well, Like, look, everybody's here, right? Like, oh, casually, wow, the whole studio's here. That's great. Let's give them a round of applause. We love the folks. We love our staff. They pull the banners back, doors open, and this big giant thing rolls out with a dragon on top, and that room went crazy. The energy in that room, like, I'm getting chills feeling it, because it's like real life. People have this joy. I've heard people like behind me, like, oh my god, like they're quivering. I'm shaking. And it's because this is the stuff people have been talking about the dragon for so long, and here it was. You were in the room? I don't remember. I didn't track where you were sort of in that space, but you're up front with us, right, with the interns.
Yep, I was towards like I think the third row or so, and
gotcha.
It was like you said, like that room just went wild, and it was being there last year and seeing the bear get revealed was amazing.
Right,
merman, Dad, merman.
Yeah. So you got to see the bear last year. How did that similar vibe, but
similar, but cranked up a little bit, just a little bit, holy cow, they brought that thing out like when a teacher brings out the AV cart and it's like, all right, we're watching Bill Nye today, we get a break. Like just the AV cart dragon. I mean, wow, dude.
It was amazing, and you could tell, like, I mean, I just felt for them. I was like, they must feel so proud and in this moment, and like, I love that for them. Just they've been working so hard, 25 years as a studio, 10 years in this line, to do something that is so I mean, this is definitely something that's a bit of a game changer for, like, we've seen big toys, we know that, like, the last couple of years have been trippy to see an Eternia, right? To see
vehicles,
Thundercats, the Thundercats layer, vehicles, the His Tank, Galactus, all that stuff. So it's not new to do a big thing, but having seen some of those, not comparing in a shady way, but we know, like with Legion's figures in general, the level of paint, detail, like we've already talked about, like it's amazing. Like this stuff is top shelf, if you will, like just fantastic art. So then what does that kind of approach to toy making look like when you're doing a gigantic thing? So you'd think, like, are they gonna, how could they actually pull this off and make it affordable and all that? But man, like, spared no expense. Like, this thing is amazing. Level of paint, the detail, all the scales. I don't know. Was there what kind of, I don't know, what was your reaction to not just the announcement, but when you got to, because I know you looked at it way more than I did in the hallways, it seems.
Oh man, just
What
the
did you
details, details on it are just astonishing. I love the color choice. I know there was a lot of different colors being thrown out there. To me, the dragon had to be green, so I was super stoked that it was a green one. Hearing word that there are 5 pillars, right? So there might be other colors coming down.
Yep.
But another thing that I was pretty excited for was Eric, just knowing how he works, right? He's very particular about anatomy and really passionate about that, and doesn't want the dragon to just open its mouth and have flames,
right?
Because it wouldn't have the snarling, the face wouldn't be properly, just the anatomy of it all wouldn't work for a dragon that's blowing smoke out. So to give us a brand new head sculpt that does the flame effects, that's just kind of above and beyond, I think.
For those who haven't been following, if there are folks here, this is the base model that I've been showing so far, and it's exactly what he was saying about this isn't work for fire, but then you create the accessory kit that gives you this alternate head, right, for that. So
we're talking it in the Dio with the other figures, like wow.
Which I don't have good shots of here. I know they're out there. Like there's this whole display of like a crispy skeleton at the foot of it.
Yeah.
So good. Look at the size of this thing, though. So with the accessories, if you didn't catch that here, this is the sort of base model. 22 inches tall with that wing up there, and 31 inches this way. But the tail is actually like, that's the other thing. It's like they could have just made the tail like, sculpted in a particular way, static. But no, these are all like segmented tails that connect, and there's a bendy thing at the end, so you can really kind of curve that thing in. In Carlos's interview with Eric Treadaway, he was saying like, yeah, we really wanted to make it so that you can make it compact depending on, where you're going to display it. Because as Doak has pointed out, like, this only issue with them doing these is some stuff is going to have to move out of the collection to make room for, these are all great problems to have. But it's funny to hear that they thought about that. Like, you can bring the wings in, you can curve the tail, that neck. I was surprised to sort of see could do a little bit of this, to seeing it in real life. Price wise, if they come in for under $350, people will lose their mind. Absolutely. That would be amazing, particularly for I'm assuming the base model. In my brain, I've been thinking like $450 for the base model and like $130 to $150 for that accessory kit. But, that night I heard it was me and Iz, we were sort of talking about it, and there were other people throwing out prices. Jeremy was there. We were talking with Jeremy, and $450 was thrown out. And Jeremy's like, well, we are going to try to get it under $450. So I was like, okay, look at you. And that's when he was explaining, like, we're looking at rotocast, body, to kind of like figuring out ways to do this well, but to do it efficiently, and with affordability as well as like articulation and all those things in mind. So we'll see. Do you have a thought on price, or what your price would be if you were to?
I've been throwing around 400 as my price.
Mm-hmm.
I think 400 is
for base for
base. Mm-hmm. And then I think the accessory pack, like you were saying, probably around 120, 150. So, I mean, won't be cheap, but it's also not a Marvel Legends figure. So it's,
I mean, yeah, no shade, but like,
no shade at all. But I mean, like scale wise, like space wise, I mean,
right.
It takes up as much room as, 2 waves of Legends, if not more, just stacked up in the amount of plastic it takes. Then the paint applications are out of this world. And
if you've got
on the prototype,
there's Sentinel, HasLab Sentinels, there's Galactus, there's the new Sentinels coming, and there was Giant Man. And so each of those have their price points. If you kind of wrap your head around what's out there, $600 for everything, if that's what it is. We don't know. We won't know till probably around January. But that does seem reasonable. It's a funny thing to say, but it does seem reasonable to me, given the level of detail. Seriously, folks, like I hate to be that person who's like, well, if you saw this in real life, but it really is something special in real life. So anyway, I'm still on the fence. At first I was like, there's no way I don't have room, but just as you've laid out, if I move some figures out, there's the potential of it sort of like existing here. If anything, my brother will get it and I'll enjoy his. But are you looking at like where it could be?
Yeah, I'm looking at all the space. The other thing I'm trying to figure out is like, how am I going to shoot this thing? Because I absolutely want to shoot it.
Yeah.
And hearing Trevor talk about how when he had to shoot it, he had to move he uses like a digital backdrop with a TV, and he had to move the TV around multiple times to get it like properly framed. But I mean, I've got to get one. It's just, we'll find out where it goes afterwards. My friend Chris Dakovich, he's out in the LA area, and he was telling me he asked his wife if he could put it on the waterfall at their pool. They've got like a rock feature waterfall. I was like, why not? Good for a photo shoot at least. I don't know long term leaving it out there, but Yeah, this thing is a beast. I mean, when you see the trolls next to it,
Yeah, that's crazy.
and the
Yeah.
trolls already take up, a good amount of room on the shelf.
I mean,
So
there's 4 trolls. If you have them all, you've basically taken up the space minus the fire. But so anyway, I don't need to convince people. Like, the reality is, if you're a Legions fan, one, you know what the quality is. 2, you know what we spend on these things. And 3, you're probably familiar with some of the space it takes. So I don't think that's going to be an issue for the Legions folks. It's beyond that. I know there's a lot of folks who are interested in this thing, which I think is great. And I'm glad to see the Four Horsemen getting that kind of attention beyond just the sort of hardcore existing collector base. So just like Legion's Con, man, there's so much we could keep talking about. I've got other stuff queued up, but it probably should be winding down. But I like it. I'm still processing. I know you've gone through this a couple of times, but I'm still like, wow, that was a thing that happened. I was there and had all these experiences. And now it's like the gift that keeps on giving. I'm looking at the pre-orders for the existing wave. I'm looking at the potential of this dragon, and kind of, we know that's going to be a ride because it's going to be kind of a campaign, and that's going to be a fun thing to kind of sit through and watch and geek out about. And there's a bunch of stuff, like I said, we haven't even touched. There's like the Dungeons and Dragons. There's a role-playing game built on D&D 2014. There's new Legions lines in the sort of Infinite Legions that I'll just sort of mention and not really talk about because there's more to talk about. So I'll probably circle back next week and talk with my guest a little bit more about some of that stuff, as well as like all the other stuff that I didn't get to talk about from other toy companies. Yeah, I guess that's just the way it's going to have to be. But anything that you wanted to sort of close out with, or actually, was there anything? We've got a little bit of time. Is there anything you're like, no, we need to look and talk about this thing that we haven't covered yet?
I mean, there's just so much. Like you said, we could go on for hours. I see 78's in the chat right now. Getting to meet him in person was an absolute treat. Seeing that massive Dio that he brought, holy cow, man.
Grayskull.
That thing was the business, dude. Talking about taking up space, like that thing was bigger than the dragon.
And that thing came from Indonesia, which is crazy.
Like for him to fly out, over 30 hours to come hang out with everyone and be part of the con was something super special. And having interacted with him, for so many years online, like being able to meet in person, like we've said, ad hominem at this point with everybody. It's super special to just meet all these people.
Let's take a look at his stuff. Well, let's take a look at his stuff real quick, and then we'll jump to Wade and kind of close it from there. But if you're not familiar with what we're talking about, where's the Grayskull? Here it is. So this was the Dio that he brought that I know several people wanted, and it kind of slipped through some folks' fingers, but obviously he like creates amazing stuff. I've featured some of this stuff here before, and every single Dio like photographed so well, just looks great. Like this thing has a ton of great little, like if you got this, you could do all these little vignettes and just focus on inches at a time and get some great shots. And I'm sad to say I didn't get to see it. Like I did not go to the booth. But c'est la vie. This was cool. And then, there's a bunch of other stuff that, do you know what else he brought? Because I haven't seen a ton of that coverage. What else did he share?
He was featuring the new dungeon that he did, but that was limited to 12 pieces, and they sold out before I could get one if you got an extra. But yeah, in that top left corner right there was his latest build that he's doing.
Sold out.
like super meticulous work. The man's an architect by trade, so you know it's going to be legit when he puts it on the table.
That's really cool. He's got the keystones right on the arcs. I see him.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're modular, right? So you can do all sorts of stuff with, which has got to be so awesome for you as a photographer. Or if you're just displaying it, like you can create different foreground, background. Do you know what it was going for at the con? I'm always curious.
Don't remember. I know one of my buddies put down for it, but did not. I don't remember what the exact price of it was.
Cool. That's fine. And then you mentioned Wade, who is from my area, which is awesome. We got to see each other at the airport because we both rode the same flight back. He was very close to us, like right behind, and I could kind of shout at him. But I was excited about this stuff, not just obviously his like, what do you call it? Exclusive odious figure. Like that thing came and went super fast.
I missed out on that.
The head sculpt on this, I loved. That's such a cool version of Odious. And then this is the one that the Snodious,
yes.
I'm calling it. Like, I can't wait for this one. I love the colors. I'm like, it's a Disney thing too. It's very much like, I don't know how familiar you are with the Matterhorn at Disney.
Yeah, dude, exactly. It's the Yeti from the Matterhorn.
Yeah. But the whole outfit too, just head to toe, the look of this thing, the contrasting, the sort of orangish browns with the blue, I think is so cool.
Yeah, he had a great display out there as well. I think Brian Almeida, Duarte Studios, built his display. He also did the Plunderlings display, and he's another creator out there that makes amazing, Dio setups.
And he was at the show too, which was awesome. This is the G.I. Jodius. Again, that's not what they're called, and he'd probably be pissed that I call it that, but pretend pissed. Wade does a lot of fake pissed. But here he is. Who was it? It was
Slacker Hacker.
Slacker Hacker. Came with full on the odious weapon, but also head to toe
cosplay.
Outfit.
Holy cow, dude.
He was all about it, man. He was like so excited. Several times I saw him like just kind of giddy, but like, oh, I got this. I'm ready to go. And that was rad.
I think Slacker Hacker was like handing out like free Odious custom pieces and things. Like,
I didn't know that.
Con. Yeah, he was just walking around handing them out while he was dressed up as Odious. Like, super cool.
The other treat was seeing figures that like we've been hearing about for a while now. The Cursed Dead is a line that will be coming out at some point, and we got to see prototypes for it at the show, which is really cool. So here's the Cursed Dead, and then he also had these guys, the Mortal Ruin. So these are folks that I know are like Adam from Toy Migos has worked on. I forget who else is involved in it. But this stuff is cool. It's just cool to see like more folks putting out new toy lines, and every single time people are kind of ratcheting it up, like introducing some new aspect, whether it's a level of paint, a level of sculpt, a level of articulation. So I love to see it. Was there anything particular on the table that you wanted to, from his stuff, that you wanted to see before we go?
I think just the blue Odious, the Snodious, like you said, was the highlight for me too. If you can click, it's all right. Enough Wade. He's Holly Wade already. But on his page, he happened to have a picture of Ricky's reveal from Plunderlings.
Okay, cool. Yeah,
right there on the right.
Yep.
Again, another absolute gem of the community is Ricky with Plunderlings. One of my favorite toy lines. This reveal was just put on the Dio with all the Plunderlings. This is a different shape. This is not your typical Plunderling. There's a secret under the mask. It was revealed in person to some people. I don't know that he's announced it officially, but I think he's doing an additional Kickstarter in March next year, possibly sometime in the spring. It's going to introduce some new creatures and some new characters to the Plunderlings line. And I had seen that mount, I want to say 2 years ago at Legions
Mhm.
Con. He had shown me some images and almost like just looking through Ricky's portfolio of things that he's just drawing and thinking about. And so to see it in person, a few years later, like in physical form, was just super special. And I'm excited to see what they do with this line. I've got every character. I'm looking at them all on the shelf right now. I'm going to have to add a second Plunderling shelf. So,
And these are meant to be in the Plunderlings world, right? It's not
Yep.
sort of a separate thing. Got it. I want to say someone did show somewhere what it looked like under. Is it yellowish? Have you seen it?
I know Robo. Yeah. He showed me
Okay.
the whole rundown. I think Robo took some video of it, so I don't know if he shared it during play or during this week's review or during play day. I don't want to
Mhm.
spoil the surprise though if it's not out there,
Right.
but
Okay.
it's a whole new design. Plunderlings have the big ears; they can't fit under that hood. So imagine
Mhm.
it's a different shape face.
Let me ask you this: when you sew it, is it magnets? Is that mask on there with magnets again?
Yep, it's still the
Awesome.
magnetized concept and everything.
Very cool. Yeah, they're really, really cool toys. And I'm excited to sort of see it's forearms. Is that what I'm looking at?
Yep.
It's
So
cool.
toyetic and fun to
Yep.
play with.
Yep.
Just excited to see, after I got the Plunderlings, I was like, okay, what else can they do? And then we got the Plunderlongs and then the Strongs. And then now they're continuing with this. And like 78 said in the comments right there, there's also some other creatures, not just these little guys under the hood, but there's also
Yep.
some birds that'll be coming around at one point that I think have been teased in some of the artwork previously. So
Absolutely. And this comment was earlier in reference to 78's stuff. Absolutely awesome stuff. Very talented. But I think that totally applies to pretty much everything at this con. Like that's the thing. Yourself, not excluded by any means, man. Seriously, like your work is fantastic. The idea of bringing in your cards in, I think, was great, and it's kind of neat. That's the thing about this the Horseman, right? It's like I said this with Emil. I feel like it's a hub. Like they've created essentially this hub for toy collecting and toy making that attracts other creative people. So it's like we were there as Spiro, and Galactic Valor was down the way. Brutal Realm was around the way. From the Realm was there, right? Like all these people are there around the Legions community, but it's like I know for a fact that a lot of these people were Legions collectors that started off Armies of Ashmore, same thing, right? And they embrace it. The Four Horsemen embraces it. It's like, yeah, come check out our stuff, but check out all these other people too. Check out Glyos, check out this. And I absolutely just appreciate and respect them for it. And I love that this is where at least this sort of like indie toy making scene has gone. And I'm totally here for it. Like I love me some Mattel stuff, right? And some Hasbro stuff. But I just feel like for the overall health of our hobby and like this is where it's at. So anyway, I could wax philosophical for ever on this stuff, but I appreciate you for making the time. Seriously, like we've gone for a while, but I appreciate you for making the time to be here today and for being awesome at the con. Like we didn't know each other, and I appreciate like say hello, and we're just having a conversation. You, me, my brother, Sam. It was awesome. So
appreciate you, man. Thank you for having me on. It's been a blast.
Yeah.
Anytime you need, somebody to come and wax poetic about this stuff, I'm always around. So definitely just drop me a line and I'll be hopping back on. But it was great to meet you. Great to meet your brother as well. Somebody to speak French with around the con. So that was great. Thanks to everybody that tuned in today and, was in the chat hanging out with us. I saw a lot of names out there that, were people that I met at the convention. So it's been really cool being able to just talk about this together, right? Because it can be a little tough when we have this big con and we all have such a good time. And then it's like, okay, it's over, what to do. So
Mhm.
being able to recap it all and kind of all get back together and just reminisce about, what was just a week ago, which is crazy. It's literally only been 7 days, but
Yep.
um
Well,
it's
on that
this is a
tip, I
great
will
way to do
say,
it.
yeah, I'll say it doesn't end here, right? Obviously, like Yimbo is going to go on in a little bit if he hasn't already started. Robo and Veebs are going to be talking about it. Like it's going to continue to happen. And on here on the Brick Something channel, I'd be remiss if I didn't say that the plan is to go through some of this stuff and edit it and post some stuff to Instagram. So subscribe, like, and do all those things, and then head over to IG. Go follow tbellet, tbellet, brick dot something. That would be awesome. And yeah, so do that. Check it out. I'll have a little bit more Legions coverage. Here's where this is like the slick ending. Not really. See, I play music and and I will say, sorry, usually when the music's playing, the audio gets cut out, so they can't really hear me, but that's okay. Here's something that I don't think your beanie can do. So there's this.
Oh, dang. Got the baklava.
Got a little Baron Zemo for you.
I like it.
All right, folks. We'll see you later. There you go. That works too. That's that. Yeah, no, that works. That could work. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you all. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Legion Scon. Thank you, for Horsemen. You're amazing. Thank you for all you do. Woo-woo.